I think technology, we talk about sometimes it brings people apart and sometimes it brings people together. But it also sometimes gives people a seat at the table. And as one of those avid scandal watchers on a weekly basis who was really pulling for you in fits, it also was the first network drama in 40 years with a Black woman lead, which I can't even believe I'm saying that out loud because it's so ridiculous. But I think without social media and, it might not have gotten sort of the following, it wouldn't have gone to that place. So I would love to hear you talk about that. Like, how does technology equalize things in some ways and give people a seat at the table who maybe didn't have one before because it was, just the head of the network who decides?
100%. So when we premiered, Scandal was thought of as a risk. It was a calculated risk, and it was a risk that ABC was worth taking, but nobody thought that it was commercially viable to have a woman of color as the number one on a network drama. They thought at the time, this is really before streamers had taken over. And so for your show to be a hit, you have to be able to sell soap in between the act breaks, right? And they thought, who's going to tune in and buy soap to a show starring a woman of color? We've never done it before. We haven't done it in 40 years. It's not possible. And, thank God our showrunner was a Black woman and the show was inspired by a Black woman in real life. So it wasn't, when people said it's impossible that a Black woman could have that much power, we could go no, it actually isn't. She exists in the world and she worked for the Bush White House, you guys. This exists. And so although she never slept with George Bush, I just want to be super clear about that. That was only Olivia Pope. So we knew that we were going to have some sort of grassroots engagement to get people to tune in because we were going to have to be willing to make history. And I was coming off of another journey of making history with the Obama campaign because I was a surrogate with that campaign in 2008 and had been on the road in, something like 16 states for then Senator and then eventually President Obama. And I knew how the campaign had utilized social media. And I knew how powerful that had been in being able to move eyeballs toward the campaign and spread the message and gain traction and especially reach out to young people. And so I didn't want to be the bossy lead actor on the show. So I called my boss, Shonda Rhimes, and I said, why don't you tell everybody to get on Twitter and we'll start tweeting about the show. And live tweeting was not a thing. Nobody else was doing it. But we were so proud of our show and so passionate about it that the whole cast got on Twitter and started to create community. And people on the platform called themselves gladiators. That wasn't a marketing ploy. People called themselves gladiators over the first scene in the first episode of the show. And from there, it just kind of took off. Because we would respond to people in real time. We used this technology to be able to create community and build an audience that really fostered success in a more traditional media landscapes, but we were able to utilize social media to get us there. I remember Oprah Winfrey coming to interview me on the stages and saying, I only started watching Scandal because it's all anybody was talking about on Twitter on Thursdays. And I was like, oh, interesting. You could really feel it. And our poor directors who would come, people would know we could be having a great work day on set, but Thursday at 9 or at 10 in the beginning and then at 9, good luck getting a scene done because we all had our faces buried in our phones, responding to every single person who was watching the episode in real time. And what happened was, it was funny because in a way we were up against another kind of technology. Event television was dying because of DVR, because of the very beginning of streaming. The only shows that were event television were sports. It was that idea of sitting in front of your television when it's on in real time was really fading away. But social media allowed us to maintain Scandal as an event television show because there was this live party happening in real time. And if you waited to watch the show on DVR till Friday, it would be ruined for you because all the spoilers were all over social media from the night before.
And what was this interface point with social media? Where did it work? Where did it not work? Where did you experiment with it? Where did it become part of making community, human relationships, telling the story? And what parts of it would you have wanted to also, like if you were to call your younger self, what parts of it would you like experiment with differently?
Well, one of the things it really helped us know was it helped us understand what parts of the show people were resonating with. Without a test audience, without having to poll, we could see what was trending. We knew which lines, which characters. I mean, I remember saying to my social person at the time, brilliant woman named Allison Peters, who really helped to kind of come up with this whole idea and spearhead it and drive it. And then she worked, of course, with ABC Digital. But I remember saying to her, the fashion on the show, I think, is a character all its own. And she was like, really? And I said, I think her clothes are going to be really groundbreaking for professional women. And so I used to get this book of all my looks for the episode with all the tags of all the different designers. And I would give that to Allison Peters. And I would respond to people when they were talking about the show and the character and the plot. Allison would just tweet fashion for the whole hour. She would let people know where to get things, where it's from, what designer it was from. And what we realized, because there really was an audience for it, is we were able to build out a whole capsule collection for the show that I co-designed with our costume designer, Lynn Paolo, that we were able to sell. And so you could have access, like entry points to the show. And there wasn't anybody at marketing or research or data analytics that said, you guys should do a fashion line. Like, we knew because we were in direct communication with our audiences. I have a showrunner that works with us at Simpson Street. She actually was a writer at Scandal, and she now is a showrunner on her own. She has a show called Reasonable Doubt on Hulu that we're really proud of at Simpson Street. Her name is Ramla Muhammad. Ramla has this gift of writing for what we used to call Black Twitter. Ramla knows what is going to make Black Twitter explode. And therefore, what will be viral, what will be exciting, what is the thing everybody's going to be talking about at the water cooler, because Black Twitter ripples out to all of Twitter. And it's a real gift, and I think part of why Ramla's so good at that is because she became a writer. She went from being a researcher to a baby writer to now a showrunner. Like, that happened during the Scandal years. So she became a writer always in dialogue directly with our audiences because of social media.